Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best Ever You Show. I'm your host, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, and with me is the fabulous Natalie Pace. Yay!
Hi,
Applause,
Elizabeth.
applause, applause.
I think you're pretty fabulous too.
Well,
It's such a pleasure.
huge honor to see you finally and have you here and talk about this amazing new book that you've got that is really a game changer. It's a college changer, a family changer, a
Yes,
life changer.
absolutely.
Epic.
Yes. Very,
Please.
very important because I think all of us have the best intentions for our kids. But the truth is when you have, 40% or more that are not even graduating from college and then they exit college with all of this student loan debt, it's a big issue. So having a plan that's really, as you know, of the mother of 4 children, each child needs a different plan. Each child needs a customizable plan. And as we learned from the college admission scandals, it really isn't a good idea to just jam them into a university so that you can think, oh, my child is going to University of Southern California. It's not about that. It's about building a life that's really ultimately meaningful for you. And then if you're really lucky, then it can also be meaningful for others and our planet. The truth is a lot of young people are very focused on the future. They're very concerned about things that are really relevant to us today. And, if we build the right foundation for that, they can get there.
Yeah. So the ABCs of money for college students, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
the book is the ABCs of money for college students. I want to make sure I get the title right. What's the second part of the title?
It's the ABCs of money for college.
College. Okay.
Yes, it is college success without student loan distress. So the truth is, both, and I'm an example of this, and my son is also an example of this, you can get a better degree for half the cost if you have a solid plan. So going out and just trying to score as high on your SATs, absolutely, that's a great idea. But even then, even if you have a 4.3 grade point average and a fairly decent SAT, you still might only get into your 5th choice. Is that the right answer? And I would say probably not.
Yeah, that happened actually. Our mom of 4 boys, our youngest one, decided he was going to graduate early from high school.
Yeah,
Really good SAT score, really good grades, everything. Rejection, 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 rejection.
yeah,
He didn't have quite the coursework that
yeah,
they were looking for. He only had 3 years compared to the whole 4 years.
yeah,
And so it set us on a path of, wow, okay, that plan is not going to, plan B
yeah.
ended up being better than plan A, though. It was really neat. But it's interesting when you open up to the different possibilities.
Yes.
And instead
What
of
was
just
your plan B?
our plan B was New Haven with Cam, but he got this thing in the mail and it was like, come to RIT. And he was like, I don't even know what RIT is, Mom. And he's like, I'm just going to fill this out. And it was interesting because they wanted him there.
Yeah,
And that's a different thing of you wanting to be somewhere and them kind of being like, they wanted him there and they aggressively, not recruit. I don't know if recruited is the right word, but, they beeline for him. And it was really a neat process.
yeah,
And we visited with an open mind and he just fell in love with it. So he's at RIT. And that was not even in the mix because I said, look, if you're going to graduate early, I kind of want you to stick close to home because you're
yeah,
young, 17 years old, going to be 18. Let's try Colby, Bates, Bowdoin. Rejection, rejection, rejection. And this is that type of student that would kind of fit that community and
yeah.
that type of grade point and those types of things. So it was really an eye-opener for Quaid. I hope he's okay with us talking about him. But,
Yeah.
an eye-opening college application process. And it was so neat to read your book after
Thank you.
going through all of this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I made some mistakes, but I did things, to the best that I knew at the time. But this is timely and perfect. I love
Thank you.
this. I
Yeah,
recommend this for everybody.
thank you. Yeah, we have 1.5 trillion in college loan debt. And, there are candidates, of course, that say, oh, we're going to wipe that out. And I got to tell you, we have to address that. That cannot just be on the burden of our millennials, because they were kind of sold into this whole plan. We have to try to protect Gen Z first from not entering into the problem.
Yeah.
And then fix the problem for the millennials, or at the same time fix it. But the really awesome thing is that, the truth is, at 18, most people don't know exactly what they want to be. They might have an idea of a general direction, but having a plan that allows them to discover themselves. I mean, 18 years of school is like 18 years of playing the game of life on a board, on a chessboard or something. It's not at all real life. So, like gap year is highly associated with success. You will more likely get into the college that you really want to get into if you transfer in as a junior, because of all of the freshmen and sophomores who drop out. Now, of course, the dropout rate is different for different schools. So like Harvard has a very low dropout rate, whereas a lot of trade schools, they might have a very high dropout rate. So it all kind of gets factored into the mix. But the truth is that, I did end up graduating from University of Southern California, and I'm from a very small town in Arizona. And when I first was looking at the college admissions brochures, they're also, I was like, oh, I'd really like to go there. But it was so far out of reach for me that I never even thought it was possible. And then by the time I got to being a transfer student and I had a 4.0 at, a junior college level, they gave me the Dean Scholarship. So it was, less expensive for me to go there than UCLA. My choices were Southern California because I was a young single mother and I really couldn't go anywhere else because of, the family reasons. But, that was unbelievable to me. And it's something that my son then followed that same path, rather than go to his fifth or his sixth choice, or, this or that university that wasn't even on the radar just because he might be able to get in. He went to Santa Monica College, which has a fantastic transfer program, and he ended up graduating from the new school, which has the Parsons School of Design and all these really world-class design centers out of it. So it's really possible, and allowing your child the process of discovery, the process of getting motivated. Like, you can't just be motivated by the college experience, because, if you go in with that idea, man, does life slap you in the face really fast, right?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. I was just, yes, it does. I can't remember.
Because we all know. We all know. It's like, it's a lot more happy, eating munchies at happy hour than you might realize,
So what made you do this book? What was, yeah.
It was just demand. And it's funny because all of my books have just been people saying, would you please write about this? And the next one will probably be the ABCs of Money for Retirement, because that's the next thing that people just demanded. And, I love research. I love data. I love statistics. And I love taking all that, like gulping it in like this giant data machine, and then going ahead and creating these easy strategies, because I understand that most people don't have all the time and money in the world. And by the way, you probably noticed that the book is only 130 pages, and that's by design, because I want you to be able to read it in a day if you want to.
Yeah, I love that you made it available at no cost too when it first came out. That was really helpful for people who might not be able to afford it, or there's a ton of different people out there. So, and I like that you do that. Like, to the group on Twitter, she's Natalie Pace, at Natalie Pace on Twitter. Also, everybody.
Yeah.
I like that. I introduced you to a group of my friends on there, and you're like, hey, come get this, and you weren't all like, and buy it for $40 or even $8.99. You know what I mean? You didn't do that to my friends, and I appreciated that. It's $8.99. I think it's affordable and stuff, and you still
$8.99.
Yeah.
And in print, but the Kindle edition is $3.50.
Yeah, it was really nice what you did, and I appreciated that. And it's
still $3.50 on Kindle. It was free for that limited. I just want people to know, we want you to be able to afford it, and we want you to be able to read it. So it's not this gigantic tome that you have to read, and it's not complicated strategies either, right? It's like, okay, here's what you do when you're in elementary school, here's what you do in middle school, here's what you do in high school, here's what you do when you finally do go through the admissions process, and guess what, if you're thinking about graduate school, here are some other things to consider. And so you can actually even just go to the section that's appropriate for you today.
And conversational. It's not written like, in statistics. It's not like a textbook. It's conversational. And I
Thank
really love that about it. And I love the person, okay, so I kind of helped write a little bit of the intro just based on a little bit of experience, but the other person is a professor of,
He's a
yeah,
MacArthur Genius winner.
yeah. Okay,
Yes,
so
I'm blessed.
thank you for
I am
that
very blessed.
company and
Yeah,
elevating me a little bit.
yeah. So the
Okay.
foreword was written by a MacArthur genius. And, let's not forget CEO, Chief Everything Officer, Elizabeth Guarino, mother of four. I mean, I used to always say that, like, that kind of balance is important. He probably has kids, and he may even have grandchildren too. But it is important to have that kind of credibility, right? Like with my first book, Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is, having a Nobel Prize winning economist, that just tells you, hey, he wrote the foreword to that one. That tells you, hey, perk up and listen to this. And so we needed that. But also your story was incredible too. And that's important to tell, is that, I loved the fact that you were going through it and you were open-hearted enough to share these experiences. And also that you didn't go into a shame game when college wasn't at least now, I mean, he still can complete those extra units and get his bachelor's if he wants to, but it wasn't the right answer for him right now. And at the moment where you'd feel like strangling him, I'm sure, and maybe you felt that for a moment, but the way
Was
that you
worried.
yeah.
Worried, really, really worried. That's an interesting phone call to get, Mom, I don't feel quite right. I don't want to do this. And you're like, oh no, I mean, we
Yeah,
literally got in the car and went and got him to make sure he was okay, because he was distraught. And he talks pretty openly about those moments, very
yeah.
distraught. And it's really neat to see him as an example of somebody who is got a work ethic that's unbelievable. It just
And
didn't work in that setting.
yeah,
And he's
well,
got a
thank you for
great job.
acknowledging that,
There's a lot
and
of
that's
people
important.
who don't go
Yeah.
to college.
Yeah. And by the way, just so that, again, I'm not just plugging the book, but I think
Oh
that's
my God.
important to know, is that college is not the right answer for everyone. But by the way, neither is trade school. So trade schools, these for-profit schools, have the highest dropout rate. And it's funny because my sister's husband, he was a former fire chief of an all-volunteer fire squad in his town. And he is also a tradesman. He's an electrician.
Yeah.
And I talked to him because, that little town, I'm honest
Yeah.
about it. I'm from a copper mining town. That little town is all about the copper mine. So I asked him, I said, do you train your own electricians? Do they go through an apprentice process with you? And he said, yes. And he said, I train them, I certify them. That's not a trade school. It's better than a trade school, because not only don't you pay for it, but you get paid to do it. The sad thing is, he said, and then the mine poaches them from me. So I train them, and then they go for
There
the
you go.
high paid job, But a lot of tradesmen, you can go through, become their apprentice, get paid. It's a lower pay, but it's better than paying.
Right.
Go through, get all the certifications that you need, get even better experience than you would have in a classroom, and get that trade. So that is included in the book as well. Is let's talk about trade school realistically. Gordon Ramsay did not go to Cordon Bleu. Some of the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
neither did Danielle Boulud.
Yeah.
So it's not saying that that's not the right answer, but that's not necessarily the right answer. You don't just have to go enroll in trade school to become a tradesman.
Do you want to talk about internships?
Sure.
I love internships. I
Yeah.
have encouraged all of our kids in both high school and college to complete as many internships as they can, because it's such real life experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that also plays into something that I think is very important to consider, the gap year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I actually think that internships, and I also talk a lot about charity. And for teens, mostly that can be a little bit of money, but a lot of it can just be time. It's great resume builder, but it's also life experience. So as I said, the gap year is highly correlated with success in college. So even like with, I think it was Malia. Which one is the older Obama daughter? I think it's Malia,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
So
think so.
Malia,
Yeah.
she gets accepted to Harvard where her parents went, and she takes the gap year. Right. So
Yeah.
it wasn't right for Sasha, but it was right for Malia. So you can get accepted even at Harvard and then say, I'm going to take a gap year. I'm going to go the year after. And that's totally fine. And, if you lived in Europe, it would almost be expected of you. And
Really.
when we talk about whether it's an internship or a charitable thing or volunteering thing or whatever it might, or even just going and living with an auntie that lives in Italy or in France and learning that second language. This can be so, and by the way, you're going to have a foreign language that's a requirement, right?
Right.
As one part of your general ed. So if you do your gap year or your internship or your charitable giving in a country where you learn a foreign language, that's an easy A in college,
Good idea.
you
That's a
know?
great idea. Yeah. Okay, I want to back up one second on the gap year thing, because I know as a mom, I was really nervous to
Yeah.
say, yes, take a gap year. I was afraid they'd never go to school.
Yeah, I know that's
Uh,
a common myth, right? It's
yeah.
a really common myth. And it's kind of like that other myth about, oh, I better pay off my debt before I start saving and investing for myself. These are common myths because people are doing the simple math and they're not doing the larger math, or they're not looking at the data and the statistics. So the idea that you have to kind of be mother hen and keep, you've been able to sequester this child and send them to school for 18 years. And now you want to keep doing it because, oh my
Yeah.
God, what happens if they go in the real world? Well, if they go in
Totally.
the real world, what if they discover, like I did, that you don't want to be a doctor, but you want to be, you're really interested in data and statistics and finance? What if you go into the real world and you discover that you don't want to be a musician because they don't get paid, and you do want to go on and be a lawyer? So do you see what I'm saying? Like, going into the real world, all of these things that we tell people as parents
Yeah, there you
become
go.
the reality that we live.
You just hit on a really good point. Like, I'm so careful of this as best I can be. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but my expectations, my thinking, my wishes, my this, my that, everything I've got in
Yeah.
my head for them may not, or my husband's,
Yeah.
or their siblings, for that, whatever, it might not be what's in their brain and soul and makeup, and that's different.
Well, here I look, we both have children. My son took a very circuitous route to get his degree.
Yeah.
Your oldest son is on a path. The real truth is that when we release our children as adults, young adults, into the world, they are starting their own path. And sometimes they may even lie to us to try to meet our expectations. That only prolongs the inevitable. You had to go and rescue your son. For me, my son did the same thing in high school.
Yeah.
Although thankfully we had already gotten him the high school degree before he decided, that's why he decided to start ditching school. And by the time they expelled him, we were already like, well, he already has his degree. So
Right.
thank God that was the case. But the truth is that expecting our children to live up to our expectations, they may have enough regard and love for us to try, but that's not them.
Yeah.
That's not them. That's not who they're supposed to be. That's not how they learn. The best thing that we can do is, as we meet who they really are becoming,
Yeah.
to be loving and supportive of that.
Bingo. All right. So the one thing about taping in this format, I can't see what time it is. I need a little clock.
It's 8:42.
Are we good? Okay, because what we're going to do from here is we're going to go on to the radio live and
Yes.
do a live radio show, and then I'll connect these shows together and do a blog with an interview with you in written
Thank
format
you.
too. And I one of the reasons why I love doing that, just so people don't think I'm here, there, and everywhere, is because as adults, we all learn so differently. And some
Yeah.
people learn by watching, some people learn by listening, some people learn by reading. And I'm trying to really cover that and be
Yes.
respectful of how people engage us to
Yeah.
get the information from you, because it's such good information.
Thank you.
Before we go, do you mind if we touch on some of your other books? Is that
Yeah, and
okay?
I actually would really love that, and I would also love if we touch on the retreats, because
Oh,
I do
please,
have,
yes.
yeah, I do have a
Shoot.
retreat that is really helpful for teens and tweens as well, and a lot of parents do it. So, my first book was Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is.
I
The
love that
second
one.
book was The ABCs of Money. The third book is called The Gratitude Game, and that is a 21-day program to help you implement the strategies in
Yeah.
the ABCs of Money and Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is. And then now, of course, we have the ABCs of Money for college.
Right.
Now, the 3-day investor educational retreats are a complete money makeover. So a lot of adults come there to redesign their 401k or their IRA to make sure that their assets are protected. They also redesign their budget so they can learn how to save thousands
Very nice.
annually with smarter big ticket choices and stop making everybody else rich, including the tax man,
Yeah.
the debt collector, the insurance salesman, all of that, the gas station, the utility company, all of the people where we just think of it as bills. If you rethink it, the Warren Buffett pays less in taxes on a percentage level than his secretary. Why don't you want to start implementing those strategies? So,
Yeah.
you learn how to do that and stop making the tax man rich. That's a pretty big payday for yourself.
Absolutely.
But so I have all of them set up for 2020. We have February in Florida. We have April. Our Earth Day retreat is in Poundbury. That's actually the eco community that was designed by the Prince of Wales, so the heir to the
Neat.
throne in England. We have June in Santa Monica, and then we have October in Arizona. My Arizona retreat is my most affordable, but we also make students half off. So
Oh,
if you
nice.
want to come and explore more about how to invest with their college fund, or even look, when they go out on their own, they're also going to need better budgeting. They're also is going to benefit if they have already invested in their college fund. So teaching them how the ABCs of money that we all should have received in high school is invaluable. So again, the October retreat is where we can offer half off for students.
So no January in Minnesota?
Well, I think
Yeah.
we did November in Michigan. That's pretty
Close. You're like close enough. The one thing I would love to see too is more of more money education. How to use credit cards, how to write it, even a check. They
Well, they do that kind of
how to
money
sign your name
education.
in cursive. They don't teach
Yeah.
cursive anymore.
Well, they do teach the check writing and all of that in most of the life skills class.
Yeah.
But I think what's even more important, again, you could learn all of that and then you go to college, and what you realize is that life today doesn't add up. We've
Yeah.
had 20 years of wage stagnation and asset bubbles.
Yep.
So the fact that your housing is so expensive, your transportation, your health insurance is so expensive, the only solution there is not writing better checks or eliminating credit card debt. It actually has to be learning a new way of living.
Yeah.
So I really want the ABCs of money that we all should have received in high school to be taught in high school. But until then, at least come to a retreat and read the books.
Perfect. All right. Natalie Pace, everyone. NataliePace.com. I did put your links up to your Amazon page. You have a really nice Amazon page just for you, and it lists all of your books, which is
Thank you.
lovely.
Thank
So
you.
an author page on Amazon, NataliePace.com. And then Natalie's one of our thought leaders on BestEverYou.com, which means she's providing articles and so forth to our audience as well. So we have, incredible access to the wonderful Natalie Pace. So Natalie, thank you for your time and energy.
Yes,
And
I
expertise.
was going to ask you something about Best Ever View. Have you thought about getting people? I mean, I would love to do it more as an Ask Natalie column. And by
Oh,
the way, be
beautiful.
anonymous, right? If people are able to find a way where anonymously they can email you their money challenge, we'd love to have
Oh,
that.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah, and maybe not this format, so people could remain anonymous. We'll do it over the
Yeah.
radio and just do Ask Natalie.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least try. At least try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's crickets, and sometimes it's epic. It just
Yeah.
depends on the
Well, also
scheduling.
if they can email you, if you have an email on Best Ever You,
I
you can
do.
always
Yeah.
email your questions beforehand. And sometimes that'll end up as a blog. Sometimes it'll end up on the radio show. The radio show could obviously take live questions as well.
Let's put that out there. Let's do that. Let's start gathering questions. So
Yeah.
Elizabeth at besteveryou.com. Do you want just that to, do you want
Yeah,
an
why
email to
not?
you as well, or just to me
Well,
with the
if
questions? Do you,
either way you want, we're at info@nataliepace.com.
yeah.
And we're also at 310-430-2397 if you feel like calling us. Yeah, I think just reference Best Ever You if you email my team so that we'll know that this is something that we're cross collaborating with our beautiful Elizabeth on.
Perfect. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. That's pretty epic, huh? We moved into the video age, and that's thanks to you too. That was a real nice nudge in the right direction. Thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I appreciate it. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching Best Ever You. And I have to look down because I've got to go to the computer screen, but thank you, Natalie, and thank you,
Yes.
everybody.